6 months had passed since that night in the training yard. Yuna had not given her official answer to the treaty. She had asked for more time, and her mother had agreed. Some of the council members had complained, but the queen had silenced them with a single look. "My daughter will choose when she is ready," she had said, and not a moment before. In those 6 months, everything changed. Yuna and Taiho had returned to the Silver Dawn, but their relationship was different now. She no longer treated him like a servant or a shadow. Instead, she treated him like what he was becoming, a friend. They ate meals together. They trained together. They talked late into the night about everything and nothing, their pasts, their fears, their hopes for the future. Yuna learned that Taiho loved music but could not sing. She learned that he had nightmares almost every night about the day his colony was destroyed. She learned that his favorite color was blue because it reminded him of the ocean on Earth, which he had never seen but always dreamed about. In return, she shared her own secrets. She told him about the pressure of being a princess. She told him about her fear that she would never be as good as her mother. She told him about the first soldier she had ever lost and how she still remembered his face. They grew closer, day by day, story by story. And somewhere along the way, Yuna realized that she had stopped thinking of him as a human or a stranger. She had started thinking of him as hers. But before she could say anything, the craft came. The attack was sudden and devastating. A massive craft fleet appeared at the edge of Valari space, larger than any force they had ever assembled before. 300 warships, commanded by the Krath High General himself. They were not coming for territory. They were coming for blood. All ships, battle positions. Yuna commanded from her bridge. The Silver Dawn shook as enemy fire struck its shields. "Where are our reinforcements?" 2 hours away, Hana reported. "The human fleet is coming, but they will not arrive in time." Yuna looked at the tactical screen. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. Even with the best tactics and the bravest crews, there was no way to win this battle. They were going to die. "Commander," Taiho said from beside her, "there is another way." She turned to him. He was calm as always, but there was a fire in his eye that she had not seen before. "The Krath flagship," he said. "The High General is commanding from there. If we destroy it, their fleet will fall into chaos. Our weapons cannot penetrate their flagship shields," Hana said. "It is impossible. From the outside, yes." Taiho looked at Yuna. "But I can get inside." Yuna's blood went cold. "No. A small shuttle can slip through their formation during the battle. I can board the flagship, fight my way to the bridge, and kill the High General myself." "That is suicide," Yuna said. "You would never survive." "Probably not." He said it like he was discussing the weather. "But if I succeed, your people will live. The reinforcements will arrive to find a broken enemy fleet instead of a victorious one. I will not allow it. It is not your choice to make." For the first time, Taiho's voice was hard. "I am a soldier, Yuna. This is what I was trained for. This is why I exist. You exist for more than this." She grabbed his arm, her fingers digging into his skin. "You exist for—" She stopped. The words caught in her throat. "For what?" he asked softly. The bridge was silent. Every officer watched them, but Yuna did not care. "For me," she whispered. "You exist for me, you fool. And I am not going to lose you now. Not after everything." Taiho's expression changed. The hardness melted away, replaced by something warm and wondering. "Yuna, I am coming with you." "Absolutely not." "Then you are not going at all." She released his arm and turned to her crew. "Hana, take command of the Silver Dawn. Hold the line as long as you can." "Commander, That is an order." Yuna looked at Taiho. "Well, are we doing this or not?" He stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile crossed his scarred face. Together then, he said. Together. The shuttle was small and fast. Taiho flew while Yuna manned the weapons. They dodged through the chaos of battle, weaving between explosions and debris, until they reached the massive craft flagship. Landing was violent. They crashed through a cargo bay door and tumbled to a stop inside the enemy ship. Before the dust settled, Taiho was already moving, his blade cutting through the first craft soldier who came to investigate. Yuna fought beside him. Not behind him, not in front of him, but beside him. As equals. As partners, they moved through the ship like a storm, leaving death in their wake. Taiho was unstoppable, fast, brutal, and precise. But Yuna was just as deadly. All those years of training had prepared her for this moment. They reached the bridge in 20 minutes. 30 Krath soldiers stood between them and the High General, a massive creature covered in dark scales and hatred. Humans and Valari fighting together. The High General growled. How pathetic. You will die like the rest of your kind. Maybe, Taiho said. But you first. He charged. The battle was the hardest of Yuna's life. She took wounds, a cut on her arm, a burn on her leg, but she kept fighting. Taiho was bleeding from a dozen places, but he did not slow down. One by one, the guards fell. Finally, only the High General remained. The creature was strong. Stronger than anything Yuna had faced before. It knocked Taiho across the room with a single blow and turned its attention to her. Little princess, it sneered. I will enjoy breaking you. It lunged. Yuna dodged the first attack, then the second. But the third caught her, and she crashed against a wall. Pain exploded through her body. She tried to rise, but her legs would not obey. The High General loomed over her, raising its massive claw for the killing blow. Then Taiho appeared behind it. He moved faster than she had ever seen him move. His blade found the gap in the creature's armor, right at the base of its skull. The High General roared in pain and fury, spinning around, but it was too slow. Taiho drove his blade deeper, using every ounce of strength he had left. The High General fell. Silence filled the bridge. Taiho stood over the body, swaying on his feet. His armor was destroyed. His face was covered in blood. But he was alive. Is it over? Yuna asked weakly. It is over. He walked to her and knelt down. Gently, so gently, he lifted her into his arms. I told you, he said. I will always protect you. Yuna laughed. It hurt, but she did not care. We protected each other, she said. That is how it should be. Outside, the Krath fleet fell into chaos. Without their High General, they panicked, scattered, and retreated. When the human reinforcements arrived, they found a broken enemy and victorious allies. The war was not over, but the tide had turned. 2 weeks later, Yuna stood before her mother's throne again. But this time, she was not alone. Taiho stood beside her, his wounds healed, but his scars prouder than ever. I am ready to give my answer, Yuna said. The queen smiled. I had hoped you would. Yuna turned to Taiho. She took his hands in hers, these hands that had killed and protected and healed. I choose you, she said. Not because of treaties or alliances. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because when I think about the future, I cannot imagine it without you. Taiho's eyes shone with unshed tears. Yuna, you waited 15 years for me. You endured my cruelty without complaint. You were willing to die for me. She squeezed his hands. Now let me spend the rest of my life making that worth it. He did not answer with words. He pulled her close and kissed her around them. The court erupted in cheers. Valari and human voices mixed together in celebration. Two civilizations, once strangers, now joined by something stronger than any treaty. Love. When they finally pulled apart, Yuna was smiling wider than she had ever smiled in her life. So, she said, what happens now? Taiho smiled back, that rare, beautiful smile that changed his whole face. "Now?" he said. "Now we build a future together. Whatever that looks like." Yuna looked at her mother, at her crew, at the man who had become her partner in every way. "I think I would like that," she said. And together, hand in hand, they walked toward tomorrow. The end. Yuna spent the first day alone in her childhood room, refusing to see anyone. Servants brought food that she did not eat. Hana came to check on her, but Yuna sent her away. Even her mother's requests for audience were ignored. She lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. She was engaged. Had been engaged since birth. To a human. To Taiho. The same man she had called a barbarian. The same man she had tried to break with cruelty and impossible tasks. The same man who had saved 23 lives without asking for thanks. How could she have been so blind? No, that was not the right question. She had not been blind. She had chosen not to see. There was a difference. On the second day, she finally left her room. She walked through the palace gardens, past the silver trees and glowing flowers, until she reached the old training yard where she had first learned to fight. Taiho was there. He was not training. He was simply sitting on a stone bench, looking at the sky. He wore simple clothes now, instead of his armor, and without the black metal covering his body, he looked almost ordinary. Just a man with scars and tired eyes. Yuna watched him from behind a pillar. She was not ready to talk to him yet, but she could not stop herself from watching. A small flying creature landed near him, one of the native birds of the Valari homeworld. Instead of scaring it away, Taiho held out his hand. The bird hopped closer, tilting its head curiously. Then it jumped onto his finger. Taiho smiled. It was the first time Yuna had ever seen him smile. It changed his whole face. The hard lines softened. The cold look in his eye became warm. For just a moment, he looked like a different person. Then the bird flew away, and the smile faded, and he was Taiho again. Yuna walked away without speaking to him. But the image of that smile stayed in her mind. That night, she finally went to see her mother. "I have questions," Yuna said. "I expected you would." The queen set aside her work and gave her daughter her full attention. "Ask. Tell me about him. Tell me everything." The queen nodded slowly. "What I know, I will share. But much of his story is his alone to tell." She began. Taiho had been born on a human colony called New Bizin. It was a mining world, harsh and cold, but his family had been happy there. His father was a ship engineer. His mother was a teacher. He had a younger sister named Jisoo, who loved to dance. When Taiho was 12, the Krath came. They destroyed the colony in a single night. 40,000 people died. Taiho survived only because his father hid him in a cargo container and launched it into space before the Krath reached their home. He drifted for 2 weeks before a rescue ship found him. He never saw his family again. After that, the queen said, he had nothing. No home, no family, no reason to live. He was sent to an orphanage on the human homeworld, and for 2 years, he barely spoke. The humans called it survivor's guilt. They said he was broken, but he recovered, Yuna said. He found a purpose. The queen's eyes were serious. When he was 14, a human general visited the orphanage. He was looking for children with potential children who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Taiho was one of the ones he chose. For what? For a special program. Training warriors who would serve as bonds between humans and their allies. Protectors for important leaders. Symbols of the alliance. The queen paused. When Taiho learned about the treaty with the Valari, he volunteered immediately. He said he wanted to protect someone. He said he wanted to make sure no one else lost their family like he did. Yuna felt her heart tighten. He was just a child. Yes, a child who had seen too much darkness and was desperate to find some light. The queen reached out and took her daughter's hand. He trained for 15 years, Yuna. 15 years of learning our language, our customs, our history. 15 years of combat training and diplomatic education. 15 years of waiting for the day he could finally meet you. And when he met me, I treated him like garbage. Yes. The queen did not soften the word. But he did not give up. He never considered giving up. Do you know what he told the human commanders before he came to your ship? Yuna shook her head. He said, "She will hate me at first. She will test me and try to break me. But I will wait. I will be patient. Because she is worth it." Tears rolled down Yuna's cheeks. She did not try to stop them. How can anyone love someone they have never met? She whispered. He did not love you, Yuna. Not at first. He loved the idea of you. The hope of you. But in the past 2 months, that idea became real. He has seen your strength, your passion, your dedication to your people. And now? The queen smiled gently. Now, I think he loves the real you. Even the parts that are cruel and proud. Yuna said nothing for a long time. Finally, she stood. I need to talk to him, she said. The queen nodded. I thought you might. Yuna found Taiho in the same place, the old training yard. He was standing now, practicing slow movements with an invisible blade. His form was perfect, every motion controlled and precise. Taiho, she said. He stopped immediately and turned to face her. His expression was calm, but she could see tension in his shoulders. Commander, he said. Do not call me that. Not here. Not now. She walked closer until they were only an arm's length apart. Call me by my name, Yuna. The word came out soft, almost careful, like he was afraid of breaking it. I have been thinking about everything my mother told me, she said. About the treaty. About your past. About why you came to me. And what have you decided? I have not decided anything yet. She met his eyes. But I have questions. And I want you to answer them honestly. I will. Why me? It was the question that had been burning in her mind since she learned the truth. There are other princesses. Other noble daughters. Why did you choose me? Taiho was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she had ever heard. Because of a story, he said. When I was 15, I read about a Velari commander who defended a space station against a craft fleet 3 times the size of her own forces. She lost half her crew, but she held the line until reinforcements arrived. She saved 4,000 civilians that day. Yuna remembered that battle. It had been one of the hardest days of her life. That commander was you, Taiho continued. I read the reports. I watched the recordings. And I saw something that made me believe. What did you see? Someone who would rather die than let innocent people suffer. His good eye was warm now, filled with an emotion she could not quite name. Someone who understood what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. Someone who knew pain and loss but kept going anyway. He took a breath. I knew then that I wanted to protect you. Not because of the treaty. Not because I was ordered to. But because you were someone worth protecting. Yuna felt something shift inside her. A wall crumbling. A door opening. And after meeting me? She asked. After seeing how cruel I was. Do you still feel that way? Taiho stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the details of his scar. The patterns in his damaged eye. You were not cruel, he said. You were afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of needing someone? Afraid of letting a stranger into your life. He paused. I understand fear, Yuna. I have lived with it my whole life. But fear does not change who you really are. It just hides it. And who am I really? Someone good? He said it with absolute certainty. Someone who cares deeply about her people. Someone who fights with everything she has. Someone who deserves to be loved. Yuna felt tears threatening again. She blinked them back. "I do not know if I can love you," she said honestly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. We are so different, I know." There was no hurt in his voice. No disappointment. Just acceptance. "But I want to try to understand you." She reached out slowly, carefully, and placed her hand on his chest. She could feel his heart beating beneath her palm. Strong and steady, like the rest of him. "Will you give me that chance?" For the first time since she had known him, Taiho's control broke. A single tear rolled down his scarred cheek. "I have waited 15 years for that chance," he said. "I can wait as long as you need." Yuna did not pull her hand away, and for the first time, she did not want to. 2 months had passed since the mining station rescue, and everything had changed. Yuna no longer tried to break Taiho. She no longer gave him impossible tasks or cruel orders. Instead, she found herself watching him with different eyes. Curious eyes. Sometimes, when she was being honest with herself, admiring eyes. He was still quiet. He still followed her everywhere like a shadow. But now, when their eyes met, she did not look away with disgust. She held his gaze and wondered what thoughts lived behind those dark eyes. The crew had noticed the change. They whispered among themselves about the commander and her human protector. Some said she was going soft. Others said she was finally seeing what they had seen all along, that Taiho was not just a soldier, but something more. Hannah noticed too. "You watch him differently now," she said one evening when they were alone. "I do not know what you mean," Yuna replied too quickly. "Yes, you do." Hannah smiled gently. "It is okay, Commander. He's a good man. Strange, perhaps. Damaged, certainly. But good." Yuna said nothing. She did not want to admit that Hannah was right. A week later, everything changed again. The Silver Dawn received a message directly from the Valari homeworld. It was from Queen Sora herself, and it was not a regular communication. It was a royal summons. "She wants us to return immediately," Yuna said, reading the message for the 3rd time. "She says it is urgent." "What about our patrol mission?" Hannah asked. "She says to transfer it to the Blue Star. She needs me home now." Yuna frowned. She does not say why. The journey back to the homeworld took 3 days. During that time, Yuna tried to prepare herself for anything. A new mission, perhaps. A change in command. Maybe even news about the war. She never expected the truth. The Valari homeworld was beautiful. It was covered in silver forests and blue oceans, with cities that rose like crystal towers toward the sky. Yuna had been born here, in the great palace that sat on the highest mountain. She had played in its gardens as a child. She had learned to fight in its training halls, but she had not been home in 5 years. The war had kept her away. Queen Sora waited for her in the throne room. She was an older version of Yuna, with the same silver hair and violet eyes, but her face carried the weight of decades of rule. She was wise and strong, and Yuna loved her more than anyone in the universe. "Mother," Yuna said, kneeling before the throne. "Rise, my daughter." The queen's voice was warm but serious. "We have much to discuss." Yuna stood. She noticed that Taiho had followed her into the room and now stood near the door, silent as always. "Is he the one?" the queen asked, looking at Taiho. "The one?" Yuna was confused. "He is my protector. You sent him to me." "Yes, I did." "And do you know why?" "Because of the alliance with the humans." "Because—" "Sit down, Yuna." The queen gestured to a chair beside the throne. "There is something I should have told you long ago. Something I hoped I would never have to tell you. But the time has come," Yuna said. Her heart was beating fast now. She had never seen her mother look so serious. 29 years ago, the Queen began. Our people were dying. The Krath had destroyed half our fleet. They were coming for our homeworld. We had no hope. I know this history, Mother. You know part of it. The Queen leaned forward. What you do not know is that we asked the humans for help. They were new to the galaxy then, but they were strong. Stronger than anyone expected. Their leader, a man named Admiral Park, agreed to help us. But he wanted something in return. Yuna felt cold. What did he want? A bond between our peoples. Not just an alliance of ships and soldiers, but a true bond. A marriage between our royal family and their greatest warrior. The room was suddenly very quiet. Yuna could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. No, she whispered. You were just born when the treaty was signed. The Queen's eyes were sad. I promised that when you came of age, you would marry the human who proved himself worthy. A warrior who would be strong enough to protect you, brave enough to stand by your side, and patient enough to earn your trust. Yuna's legs felt weak. She gripped the arm of her chair to keep from falling. The humans have been training candidates since you were a child, the Queen continued. Testing them, pushing them, waiting for the one who would be worthy of a Valari princess. And? Yuna could barely speak. The Queen looked toward the door. Toward Taiho. He is the one, Yuna. He was chosen 5 years ago. He has spent those 5 years preparing for this duty. Every mission, every battle, every sacrifice. It was all for this moment. Yuna turned to look at Taiho. He stood perfectly still, his face showing nothing. But when their eyes met, she saw something there she had never noticed before. Patience, devotion, and something that might have been hope. You knew, she said to him. This whole time you knew. Yes, he said simply. Why did you not tell me? Because you had to choose to see me. His voice was quiet but steady. If I had told you, you would have pushed me away forever. You needed to learn who I am, not what I am supposed to be. Yuna's mind was spinning. All those weeks of cruelty, all those tests and humiliations. And he had known the whole time that she was supposed to be his wife. You let me treat you like dirt, she said. You let me call you names and give you impossible orders. Why? Taiho took a step forward. It was the first time he had ever moved toward her without being ordered. Because none of that mattered, he said. Words cannot hurt me, Commander. Pain cannot break me. I have known suffering you cannot imagine. But I survived it all because I had a purpose. A reason to keep fighting. And what was that purpose? You. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. From the moment I learned about the treaty, I knew what I had to do. I had to become someone worthy of you. Someone who could protect you. Someone who would never let you down. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She tried to fight them, but they came anyway. I do not deserve that kind of devotion, she whispered. That is not for you to decide. Taiho's voice was gentle now, softer than she had ever heard it. I have made my choice. The only question is, what will you choose? Queen Sora spoke again. The treaty does not force you to marry him, Yuna. You can refuse. But know this, the humans have honored their end of the agreement for 29 years. They have fought beside us. They have died for us. And Taiho has sacrificed more than you know to be here. Yuna looked at her mother, then back at Taiho. She thought about the past 2 months. The silent protection. The impossible missions. The way he had charged into 19 Krath soldiers without hesitation. She thought about how he had never once complained about her cruelty. How he had never asked for anything in return. I need time, she said finally. I need time to think. The Queen nodded. You have 3 days. Then you must give your answer. Yuna stood on shaking legs. She walked past Taiho without looking at him, out of the throne room, through the palace halls, until she reached the gardens of her childhood. There, surrounded by silver trees and blue flowers, she sat down and cried, not because she was angry, not because she was scared, but because, for the first time in her life, she realized that someone had loved her before she even knew he existed, and she had no idea what to do about it. 3 weeks passed, and Yuna's hatred for the human only grew stronger. Not because he was terrible at his job. No, that was the problem. He was perfect at his job, and it made her furious. She had tried everything to make him fail. She had sent him on difficult missions. She had given him impossible tasks. She had even tried to embarrass him in front of her. Nothing worked. When she ordered him to clean the waste systems on the lower deck, he did it without complaint. When she made him stand guard for 18 hours straight, he did not sit down once. When she spoke about humans in the worst way during dinner, calling them primitive and stupid, he simply ate his food and said nothing. His silence was the worst part. Yuna wanted him to fight back. She wanted him to show anger so she could have a reason to send him away. But he gave her nothing. "You are trying to break him," Hana said one morning. "It will not work." Yuna frowned. "Everyone breaks eventually." "Not him? I have been watching him, Commander. He is not like other humans. There is something different about him." "Different how?" Hana thought for a moment. "He is empty, like a cup with no water. I do not think your cruelty can hurt him, because there is nothing inside him to hurt." Yuna did not like that answer. She did not like it at all. That afternoon, the Silver Dawn received a distress signal from a nearby mining station. Krath raiders had attacked. There were survivors hiding in the lower tunnels, but the Krath were searching for them. "We must send a rescue team," said one of Yuna's officers. "The station's defenses are still active," said another. "Our shuttles cannot land safely. The anti-aircraft guns will destroy them." Yuna studied the map on her screen. The mining station was built into an asteroid, and the only safe landing zone was on the far side, almost 2 kilometers from where the survivors were hiding. "Someone would have to go on foot," she said, "through Krath territory. It would be suicide. I will go." Everyone turned. Taiho had spoken for the first time in days. He stepped forward, his one good eye fixed on the map. "The terrain provides cover," he said. "If I move at night, I can reach the survivors before dawn. I will bring them to the landing zone, and your shuttles can pick us up." "There are at least 30 Krath soldiers on that station," Yuna said. "You would be alone." "Yes, you would die." Taiho looked at her. For the first time, she saw something in his eye. Not fear, not excitement. Something colder. Something darker. "Perhaps," he said, "but the survivors will live. That is what matters." Yuna felt strange. She had been trying to hurt this man for weeks, and now he was volunteering to die for people he had never met. Why? She asked. "Why would you do this?" "Because it is right." 4 words. Simple words. But they hit Yuna harder than she expected. She should have said no. She should have found another way. But something in her wanted to see what this human could really do. "Fine," she said. "Go." Taiho bowed and left to prepare. 3 hours later, he was on the asteroid. Yuna watched from the ship through long-range cameras. She told herself she was just doing her duty as commander. She told herself she did not care what happened to him. She was lying to herself. The asteroid's surface was dark and rocky. Taiho moved through the shadows like smoke, his black armor making him almost invisible. He did not run. He did not rush. He moved with the patience of a hunter. The first Krath soldier did not see him coming. One moment the alien was standing guard, and the next moment he was on the ground with a broken neck. Taiho took his weapon and kept moving. Over the next 2 hours, Yuna watched something she would never forget. Taiho killed 11 craft soldiers before they even knew he was there. Silent, efficient, deadly. He used knives, his hands in shadows. When he finally reached the survivors, 23 Velari miners who had been hiding for 2 days, he did not celebrate. He simply told them to follow him, but the craft had finally noticed something was wrong. Alarms rang out. Lights flooded the tunnels. And suddenly, Taiho was not hunting anymore. He was being hunted. "He will never make it," said one of Yuna's officers. "There are too many of them." Yuna said nothing. Her hands gripped the edge of her command chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. On the screen, Taiho pushed the miners into a narrow passage and turned to face the coming enemy. 19 craft soldiers rushed toward him, their weapons firing, and Taiho charged. He did not hide. He did not retreat. He ran straight into them like a storm hitting the shore. The battle lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes of blood and fire and screaming. When it was over, 19 craft soldiers lay dead or dying, and Taiho was still standing, but he was not unharmed. His armor was cracked in 3 places. Blood ran from a wound on his arm and another on his side. He limped when he walked. Still, he led the miners to the landing zone. Still, he stood guard while the shuttle landed. Still, he made sure every single survivor was on board before he climbed in himself. When the shuttle returned to the Silver Dawn, Yuna was waiting in the landing bay. She did not know why she had come. She told herself it was to check on the survivors. The miners came out first, crying and thanking everyone they saw. Then Taiho came out. He was barely standing. His face was pale, and his wounds were still bleeding. But when he saw Yuna, he straightened. He walked toward her, and he bowed. "Mission complete, Commander," he said. "All survivors are safe." Yuna stared at him. This man had just killed 19 craft soldiers alone. He had saved 23 lives. And he was reporting to her like it was just another day. "You are injured," she said. "I will heal. You could have died. Yes. For people you never met. For Velari, not humans." Taiho looked at her with his dark eye. "Life is life, Commander. It does not matter whose blood runs through the veins. Every person deserves a chance to live." Yuna felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she had built long ago, a wall made of pride and prejudice and fear. "Go to the medical bay," she said softly. "That is an order." Taiho bowed again and walked away. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She kept seeing the battle in her mind. She kept seeing the human charge into impossible odds without hesitation. She had called him a barbarian. She had called him primitive. She had treated him like dirt, and he had never complained. He had never fought back. He had simply done his duty and saved lives. Maybe, she thought, I was wrong about him. Maybe I was wrong about humans' thought. It was a thought that both scared her and excited her. Because if she was wrong about Taiho, what else was she wrong about? She did not know the answer yet, but she was starting to want to find out. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of her warship, the Silver Dawn. She was tall for a Velari woman, with skin that glowed soft blue under the ship's lights. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders, and her violet eyes could make even the bravest soldiers look away. She was feared. She was respected. She was the daughter of Queen Sora, and she answered to no one but her mother. Today, however, her mood was darker than the space outside her window. "He arrives in 1 hour," said her second officer. A young Velari named Hana, the human. Yuna's jaw tightened. "I did not ask for a protector. I do not need one. The Queen commanded it, Commander. The Alliance, I know about the Alliance." Yuna's voice was sharp like broken glass. Humans, they're loud. They are violent. They smell strange, and they have no grace. And now my mother sends one to follow me like a pet? Hannah said nothing. She knew better than to argue when her commander was angry. The Volari had been at war with the Krath Empire for 50 years. They were losing. Their people were beautiful and intelligent, but they were not warriors. They were scientists, artists, and diplomats. The Krath were monsters who only understood blood and fire. Then the humans came down. No one had expected much from them. They were a young species from a small planet called Earth. But when the Krath attacked human colonies, something changed. The humans did not run. They did not negotiate. They fought back with a fury that shocked the entire galaxy. In 10 years, the humans pushed the Krath back further than the Volari had in 50. They were brutal. They were efficient. They were terrifying. And now, because of some old treaty Una did not fully understand, a human warrior was coming to be her personal guard. She hated the idea. The shuttle arrived exactly on time. Una went to the landing bay with a group of her officers. She wanted the human to see her power immediately. She wanted him to understand that she was in charge. The shuttle door opened, and he stepped out. Una had seen humans before, but usually from a distance. This one was taller than her. His skin was tan, weathered by sun and war. A long scar ran from his left eyebrow down to his cheek, crossing over a damaged eye that was now pale and blind. His other eye was dark brown, almost black, and it held no emotion at all. He wore simple black armor, not the fancy kind that officers wore, but the practical kind that had seen real battle. Many battles, from the look of the scratches and dents on its surface. His name was Taiho. She had read his file. 29 years old. Born on a human colony that the Krath had destroyed when he was 12. He had been fighting ever since. His kill count was so high that Una had thought it was a mistake at first. It was not a mistake. He walked toward her and stopped 3 steps away. Then he bowed. It was not a deep bow, but it was respectful. "Commander Una," he said. His voice was low and rough, like stones grinding together. "I am Taiho. I am here to serve as your protector." Una looked at him with cold eyes. "I did not ask for you. I know. I do not want you here." "I know. Then why did you come?" "Because your mother asked, and my commanders ordered." He straightened and met her eyes. There was no fear in his gaze. No anger. Nothing. "I go where I'm needed." Una felt her anger rise. She had expected him to be scared of her, or at least nervous. Most aliens were. But this human looked at her like she was just another person. Like her title meant nothing. "You will stay out of my way," she said. "You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not interfere with my work. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good." She turned and walked away. Her officers followed, and after a moment, so did Taiho. Over the next few days, Una tried to forget that the human existed. But it was impossible. He was always there. When she woke up, he was standing outside her quarters. When she ate, he was by the door. When she trained in the combat room, he watched from the corner. He never spoke. He never complained. He just watched. It was maddening. "Does he ever sleep?" Una asked Hannah one night. "I am told humans need less sleep than Volari," Hannah answered. "Perhaps 4 or 5 hours. He is like a ghost. A large, ugly ghost." Hannah had a small smile. "He is not so ugly, Commander. Some of the crew find him interesting." Una made a disgusted sound. "They are fools. He is a human. A barbarian." But even as she said it, she found herself watching him more. The way he moved was strange. For such a big man, he was very quiet. His footsteps made almost no sound. His eyes, his one good eye, was always moving, always watching everything around him. He was not just a soldier, she realized. He was a predator. One evening, Yuna decided to test him. She was practicing with her blade in the training room when she turned suddenly and threw a knife at him. Any normal person would have been hit. The knife was fast, and she had given no warning. But Taiho was not normal. His hand moved in a blur, and he caught the knife by its handle, just a finger's width from his chest. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Taiho walked forward and placed the knife on the table beside her. "Your throw was good," he said quietly. "But you dropped your shoulder before you released. It gave you away." Yuna felt her face grow hot with anger and something else, surprise, perhaps, or embarrassment. No one had ever caught her blade before. "Get out," she said. He bowed slightly and returned to his corner. That night, Yuna lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the human and his impossible reflexes. She thought about his dead eye and the scar that crossed his face like a river through a mountain. Who was this man? What had made him this way? She told herself she did not care. He was just a human, a temporary problem. Soon, she would convince her mother to send him away. But deep in her heart, a small voice whispered that things were not going to be that simple. Nothing about Taiho was simple, and whether she liked it or not, her life had just become much more complicated.